welcome everybody.
Welcome. We're just going to make the connection now to share our screen. Yes, we have matching t-shirts. Someone noticed that. I guess they can see us. Yes, and this is our Educulture logo. So Melanie and I have joined forces to develop this concept of Educulture. We share a lot of information with students all over the world. And we are looking forward to sharing this information with you, and very excited that we are in a situation here with people from a lot of different countries. So maybe we should start, Melanie, with our bilingual slide.
Yeah, so we have a slide that just says, welcome, bienvenue. I want to say Bindingen because I do work for a First Nation as well. So that is Ojibwe for welcome. Of course, some of you may recognize some others, like bienvenidos is Spanish. And of course, we have Hawa Ying. So anyone who's Mandarin, excuse my bad Mandarin. I've been trying to learn from my students. And so we just like to welcome you and start off with a cultural welcome.
Okay, and perhaps we need to introduce ourselves a little more appropriately. So my name's Karen, and we've kind of created a little chart here for you so that you get to know us from our academic background, areas of expertise, and passion. So I've been involved in intercultural studies and communication and recreation from an academic perspective. And I've worked a lot of years in international relations, doing some teaching, mentoring, and connecting with people all over the world. Also, my passions are what I call my 3 Gs: golfing, gardening, and my grandchildren. Melanie?
And well, as you can see, I'm very much on the education side. I have taught everything from elementary to secondary to ESL to English for academic purposes to college and university courses. So Karen and I wanted to show you something that's worked very well with our students when we're getting to know each other. So this could be done in the workplace. It could be done I've done it in the classroom. I call it like a yearbook page, because often when people meet from different cultures, they're a little bit shy. They might be worried about the main language. In this case, it's English, but they might, feel a little awkward. So I ask students, and I've asked coworkers as well, just to put together a little yearbook page, and it gives opportunity for people to get to know you a little better. So I'm not going to go through it the way I would with my coworkers or my colleagues, but just very quickly, the left side represents my professional side with my students, and the right side represents my more personal side with some of the things that I love to do, which include travel.
Now I'll show you mine. And of course, when you do these kinds of things, you're going to have the opportunity to do it your own way. And you got to challenge your students to do this too. Let their character come through, how they like to organize things. And it's key to indicate what's important to them. So for me, it's about traveling, connecting, and collaborating with people around the world. And of course, by the way, we're not showing the slides. They're rather small. I'm sorry for that.
Thank you for letting us know that.
Yes, I'm not sure.
We're usually pretty good Zoom experts. We teach on Zoom all the time. So the question, maybe Karen, take it off.
Yes.
Put it on just regular slideshow instead of presenter view, maybe.
Okay, I'm going to do that. Just give me a moment. I'll stop the share and I'm going to bring the share right back. Okay. I appreciate you letting us know that, because that's the kind of thing you wish you had a techie next door, right? So
we use Zoom all the time, so not sure what's going on, but
okay,
maybe just go to start slideshow.
Yeah, we're going to do this over again. And I'm just going to move through. Now, the thing is, I got to share the screen again.
Can someone just type in the chat if you can see it bigger now?
I don't think you can yet until I share screen. I am sharing the screen now. How is that functioning for you? I'm going to need to move some things around.
Yeah, if you could just let us know if you can see it much bigger now.
Yes,
Okay.
I can see it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank
Oh.
you for letting us know.
And I'm going to move our faces off of here too. Okay.
Okay, so maybe we could just go forward, Karen, to where we were. So you will notice that Karen and I have different styles, and we have many things in common, but we have different things as well in terms of how we like to do things. And we can think of that in terms of culture as well. There's no right or wrong way. It's just different from maybe your way. And we want to just present some things for you to think about. This is all just information and things to think about. Karen and I like to say there's no right or wrong, but opening your mind to other ideas, other cultures, other languages helps you expand your own sort of inner self and mindset.
Definitely.
So Karen, you want to explain what we're going to do with one of our tools?
Yes, this is a tool called Answer Garden. I'm not sure if you've heard of it before. It's easy to find. Just Google that, and you can set up a query or a question in probably 5 minutes. So it's really easy to do. And we thought this might be a great way to find out where you're from and what your profession is. So I have now pasted this link that you see on the PowerPoint slide in the chat. You should be able to access that. Simply click on it. It'll open up automatically for you. And then please enter in your name, what country you're from, and your profession. I've given you an example of Melanie's on this slide.
Yes. And you only have so many characters, so that's why we're saying just keep your answer brief.
Brief and short. And then they're all going to show up on one large slide, and you'll see it grow in the answer garden that you're working on. I can see it grow as you enter it in. So please take a moment, click on that link that I've provided in the chat. You can't see the link. Okay.
Just press enter.
Okay. Yeah, press enter on that link. Or you can see the link on the page there. You could type that in to your URL spot.
Okay, and I'm sort of going to take over a little bit. Karen actually has a family emergency. She knows who's calling. I'm going to take over, so I apologize for that. And Karen has a Mac, and I don't work on a Mac, so this should be interesting. So the purpose of Answer Garden is we've done this. You could do it with 200 people, or you can do it with 5 people. But the point of it is you get to see the person's. It grows like a word art, and you're able to see it. So I'm not sure why everybody can't see it. I'm going to try to copy it and paste it again for you guys. Because there we go. Okay, yeah, obviously the link is available because we're able to see. I see we have Jimmy from France, Yvonne from South Africa. So I'm not sure why some people can get the link or not, because it was sent to everybody. Let me see what's going on here. If someone else could try to put the link in, maybe we can go from there. So the problem, some people are saying they can't see the link, Karen, so maybe, but we're not going to spend too much time on this. We just wanted to show you one of the tools. Maybe, Karen, you could just share the screen of the people who were able to enter. And
okay, I'm going to try to do this.
Just so what it looks like.
We've got Jimmy from France. He's an engineer. Kevin is here. Yvonne, South Africa. Okay, so a couple people were able to get the link. You know what? This is something that takes a little bit of time to work at, and I think we need to move on so that we can get through the rest of the material.
We just wanted to show you a tool that's really easy when you're introducing people. So we apologize to anyone who wasn't able to answer to click on the link, but It's really, really simple, and you could explore it later, but we've done this many times.
Yes,
and,
we have.
and it's always worked out. So it's just one of those days. But it's
Okay.
nice because you get to, when you're online, and I'm sure all of us are kind of zoomed out and onlined out, it at least connects you. And that's our main message is like, you need to have connection when we're talking about language and culture.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter whether, we're working with people next door in the same city or far away. So let's get to the thrust of this whole conference discussion today about flexing and fluxing. We know we live in a state of flux. Things are happening, things are changing. And what we need to do now is figure out how we can be more flexible. And making that connection, Melanie's going to do a lot of this connection between language and culture. My specialty area is the culture. So I'm going to go on with the next couple slides about looking at culture. We really do explore it through our own cultural lens. It's based on our values, our beliefs and attitudes, and together these shape our behaviors. This is how we talk and communicate with each other, what we wear, where we go, how we socialize, what our traditions are, etc. And usually this is a nurturing process that happens over time with family influence, church, school, all of those things. When we're thinking about culture, it's really important for us to explore this iceberg. I don't know if you've seen it before, but Google it. You'll see it for every function, every kind of industry that's out there.
Pay attention to this iceberg, because I'm going to show you a different one a little later. But how do they relate would be our question.
Yes. So typically you only see 10% of an iceberg. 90% of it is below the waterline. So in this particular cultural iceberg, we're looking at the extrinsic concepts, what we see, what we hear, and you can see those at the top. Below the waterline is the intrinsic characteristics, things like family values, religious background, traditions, concepts of time and space and body language, but deeper than that, it's about understanding those aspects, asking questions and doing it respectfully to learn about the other. Now I'm showing you the concept of culture with those same ideas, as culture as a hub. And around it are all these things like our values and attitudes, manners, how we behave, religion, personal communication. It's just some people like looking at things from different perspectives, but it's the same concept. In order to understand and effectively work with people across cultures, empathy is key. Empathy is a major component of emotional intelligence. And this is how we identify and understand the needs and wants and viewpoints of other people. So how do we do that, Melanie? We have to sometimes walk in someone else's shoes. Put yourself in their position.
And I say to my students, even ask yourself if someone has shoes. Right?
That's true, because they may not. Pay attention to the body language that's going on, and then respond to the feelings of others. It's not just listening to the words. It's understanding how people work, how they function. Now, a colleague in the United States named Michael Vandenberg has developed this 4-phase developmental framework for intercultural competence. So I'm going to just mention it to you in the 4 stages. The first one is really figuring out your own culture. I implore you, any kind of cultural training that you engage in, please have everyone start with yourself as the foundation, because you can't get to know the other till you know who you are and how you view things through your cultural lens. Then the second point is being aware of others and understanding how others operate. The third component is mindfully looking at the connections between people, figuring out what is challenging, what is different, what helps us understand other people, And then the last piece is actually bridging that cultural gap. And that takes a lot of intentional effort. So in the intercultural competency training I do with companies, organizations, students, etc., we always look at these 4 stages. This is a process in the making. Michael, also known as Mitch, will be posting this kind of thing in the future.
So if we look at this montage, we see many different faces, many different dress. And Karen and I have really been focusing, especially since COVID hit, but before, but especially since COVID, is how do we communicate? How do we connect with a student-centered approach? And we know that we may not be speaking to teachers or educators. We can substitute student-centered approach to colleague-centered approach, people-centered approach, family-centered approach, as we are in an age when, different cultures may come together through marriage and family. So giving your own context, substitute student with whatever cultural situation you may have or that you are learning more about. So work, home, marriage, education, that kind of thing. One of our main keywords is assumptions. Through our years of dealing with international people, I have been very involved with new immigrants to Canada, not only learning a language, but settling in Canada. Karen and I have asked many people and gone through many things in terms of the word assumptions. So what we would like you to do is just think about yourself. Write down in chat, Karen.
No, just on your own.
Just on a piece of paper, because we're going to come back to this, is write down what you think some of your assumptions might have been when you have met a colleague or a student, someone from another culture. What assumption did you make and why did you make it? And no one can say that they don't make assumptions because we all do. It's just human nature. So I don't want to bias you in any way. I just want you maybe to write down 5 things. If you could write 5 things that where you have maybe made an assumption about someone from a different culture or speaking a different language.
So just take a moment and do that. I've also asked in the chat if others are having difficulty seeing the screen. I know a couple people have said they cannot see it. Please indicate that in the chat as well. Thank you.
And I'll remind people on Zoom, there's like a line between the PowerPoint and the people you can see. So if you grab the line and you pull it across, it will make the slide bigger and the people smaller. So sometimes that might be an issue.
Were you scrolling the good PowerPoint window? Because we are a few people to still see your poll #1 slide where the
so right now, I'm sorry, can you see the green slide that says the word assumptions on it?
No, that's why I'm asking you if you
okay, so
have 2 windows on your PowerPoint, the one with the slides you're sharing and the one when you're editing slides. Sometimes when you scroll the wrong one, it's
okay. I'm going to stop share and try again.
Okay.
I apologize.
Bonjour Jimmy, comment ça va?
Oh, ça va bien. Il est 22h30 ici.
Je ne parle pas le français bien, un petit peu.
Très bien.
So can everybody, we don't know what's going on. We never have this problem. Can you see the slide that says assumptions? Jimmy, can you let us know?
Andrew says no.
No, it's loading right now.
I think it's coming, but not seeing anything just yet.
I'm not sure why
Okay,
this
is very strange.
It says you are screen sharing, it says. I'm going to change the slide, going back one, to the slide that has many faces from people around the world. Can you see that one?
No, it's just a black screen at the moment. It feels like something's coming, but there's nothing at the moment. So maybe stop and reshare.
Yes.
Okay, we'll try this again.
I appreciate this troubleshooting. Really not
Shame.
sure.
It happens, you know, to anybody these days. So don't worry.
Yeah, well, thank you. But this is like, usually, we don't know. We had trouble getting into the conference. So
Yeah. That's okay. We're gonna try to work through
yeah,
it.
we'll work through it.
Now, do you see a slide that says connecting and communicating? With
No, it's still just on my side at least. It's still a black screen. It says you have started to share your screen, but it was black.
This is
I'm
just
going to try a different one. How is that?
bizarre.
Is that functioning now?
No.
Oh, darn, we got such nice slides to show you.
I'm almost tempted that you get on our Zoom instead of this one. Maybe all I can say, Karen, is maybe close the power. Okay, while Karen's like trying to figure this out, maybe we can engage in some conversation because we're a fairly small group. So anybody have any comments about what they wrote down or something that they're wondering? Why did you join this session too? Maybe that can start some conversation.
Just open your mic and feel free to chat.
Everyone's so quiet. I feel
Yeah.
Shy.
So I didn't have any expectation. I just saw that there was, you know, I think the title just captured my attention. So I thought, why not? Yeah.
Yvonne, where are you from?
I'm from South Africa. Sorry, I'm being rude. Let me put on my camera. I'm not in my best shape.
That's fine.
That's why I was hidden.
That's okay. Do you see a slide now? Please.
No, I'm seeing the black screen again. Jimmy, what are you seeing on your side?
Same thing as you. I
Just
just have
a
a
black
notification that sharing has begun, but I can't see anything either.
So it's almost like there's some sort of delay going on.
Yeah, I tried quitting the conference and coming back, but it didn't change anything. So it just might be
This is okay.
technical
What if you
We only
got
have
their emails?
3
and-
people here.
What if you got their emails and invited them to our Zoom?
Would you like to do that? And we could go through this in
Would
the
you be
next
open
half hour?
to going on our Zoom and seeing if we can solve the problem that way?
I don't really mind, but I feel like your best bet is actually to stay here and have a conversation rather, because I feel like some people might jump in at any moment, and they might be, you know, just stay if they feel it's interesting. I don't know. I tend to move
can you
around.
see the people? Can you see us?
I can see you.
Okay.
Okay, you know
that's
what
good.
I'm going to do? I'm going to play teacher here, and I'm going to open this PowerPoint up on my computer, and I'm going to hold the computer up to the camera. It's better than nothing, right, you guys?
Well, like, yes, or I can do that too, I guess.
Yes, well, yeah, actually, we could do that, is just turn our camera.
Okay, here's what we're going to do. You're not going to look at us. You're going to look at the screen.
Okay, so it's a little bit there.
Is that working?
Can you guys see our slides now?
perfect.
That's working. Wow.
Okay, so that's to
Creativity,
start.
yay.
You're not going to see our faces, but who needs to see our ugly mugs? You can see our slides. So Karen, I think what we'll do, everybody, is we'll just flip through the slides we've talked about already.
Yeah.
And then just to give you an idea of what we were talking about, because
So we talked about culture and the values, beliefs, attitudes, and behaviors that shape culture, and it's based on learned culture, correct? And then the cultural iceberg. If you want, we will provide you our emails later at the end, and you're welcome to email, and we would be glad to forward this presentation to you. And the cultural iceberg has the extrinsic aspects and the intrinsic aspects, and that's what we really need to dig into, the stuff under the waterline, to get to know each other. And then we had a hub looking at culture. And I just want to clarify, does this picture that you're looking at, can you read the words easily?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, okay, great.
Okay,
If you can't see anything, just talk up and I can play camera person and I can like zoom in and zoom out, okay? It's you got to do what you got to do these days, right? Okay.
and then this was the concept of empathy, right? Putting yourself in someone else's shoes. Walk a day in someone's shoes to really understand them and listen. Then we talked about 4 developmental phases of intercultural competence. 1, understanding yourself. That's the foundation in your own culture. Then understanding the other, and then learning to mindfully connect with others. And then bridging the cultural gap. That is the ultimate goal. Melanie
And this is
reflected on this.
what we reflected on in terms of when we were talking about when you're connecting and communicating with people. We have student-centered. We're not sure everybody's background, but it doesn't matter. It could be people-centered, work-centered, whatever. It's the mindset of really taking a good look at yourself, right? Really taking a good look at yourself. And then we talked about assumptions. And I think that's where we had our discussion that we couldn't see the slides. So we asked you to write 5 things down on assumptions that you have made about, it could be an international student, a family member from another culture, that sort of thing. And then we wanted to put in your mind to rethink how we might communicate with an international student or a newcomer. I was mentioning that I've worked for many years with new immigrants coming to Canada, not just learning the language, but integrating. Karen and I cringe when we hear the word assimilate, right? Because it's not, you shouldn't ask someone to assimilate, you should ask them to integrate. And I have said 5 million gazillion times, I have learned way more from my students from different countries than they have learned from me. Yeah.
And it's about creating experiences for them. And these are some photos that both
These
from
are our
students that we have taught in 2 different contexts, and them connecting with each other and engaging in cultural experiences here in Canada. And why is it important to develop intercultural competency skills? This is so you can effectively communicate, not only in various languages, but communicate and understand the other, appreciate the, and these are big words right now, diversity, equity, and inclusiveness. This is the key concept all over North America and the UK right now, and I'm sure it's expanded to many other countries. And this is where you have to develop intercultural skills in order to be appreciative of others and their diversity, treat people equitably, and above all, include them.
And this is very important in the workplace. We're currently working with another organization. And so our part of it is focusing on these things and soft skills, because employers around the world will look at the hard skills, your education, but they want to know what your skills are going, what your soft skills are going to be, and how you're going to integrate into the company or into the business. So this is very, very, very important for anyone to do some research on their own as well. Of course, there's all kinds of courses and certificates out there, and you don't necessarily need to do that, but you need to be aware of who you are and what you may need to work on or what you need to know. So remember, I told you at the very beginning when you saw Karen's iceberg, I hope she can go back to it in a second. There's also a gentleman, Dr. Jim Cummings. He's out of Toronto, University of Toronto. He has been around forever. He is globally renowned, and he has an iceberg in terms of language. So if you look at the iceberg, again, that sort of 1/10 at the top, this is what most people think learning language is about. You know, your pronunciation, your spelling, your grammar, all kinds of things. And he's called that BICS, basic interpersonal communication skills. However, just like Karen showed with the cultural iceberg, there's way more below when you actually master a language in terms of abstract. So I explain this to my students of, do you understand jokes in the language? Do you understand idioms and expressions and the cultural sayings when people are talking? So if we look, we're going to look at this in a much easier, simpler way, but I just want to, if anyone's interested in language and language learning, this is sort of one of the gurus to go to. So let's look at it in a simpler way. The simpler way is, let's look at our iceberg, and we have to look at experiences and shared experiences. So again, that tip of the iceberg of learning a language is writing and speaking, listening. We have 4 main skills when we teach a language: reading, writing, listening, speaking. But what some educators may not realize, or what some people may not realize, is it's much deeper than that. It's much deeper. So if you look at some of the things that are below the surface, most of them come from the actual culture. So let's simplify it even more with some pictures, taking a look at language and then taking a look at culture. So we can also simplify it in visuals as well. Again, pointing out, when you're learning a language, it doesn't have to all be in words, right? Visuals are great for learning a language.
Okay, I'm going to just briefly introduce a tool called Socio-cultural Competency Training, or SCT for short. The idea with this is to move the newcomer through stages. There are 5 different stages where you help them connect and build knowledge and do some assessment. We go through a process, an ABCDE process, where you approach a concept, you bridge it, you comment on it, you figure out how to use the information, and then you summarize, and then you keep moving forward. Then we practice it through processes. There's demonstrations, we watch videos, and we then move into goal setting. And what concepts do the people want to learn? And then we figure out through a guided process how they can transfer their learning. What they're learning to address are the 6 key competencies on the left. How do you participate in groups or teams? How do you ask for help or seek information? How do you make social contact or general social conversation? Refuse a request, express a disagreement with someone, and give feedback. And on the right are the corresponding skills that individuals will learn from each of those competencies. Now, you need to have an SCT trainer deliver the training. I happen to be one of those, but I know other people who are as well. So anyway, it's a great tool.
And I want to pipe in, this was a little quiz I gave my students. We're not going to look at that.
Okay.
But I want to pipe in that we're going back to assumptions. And I just really, very general, a really good assumption is people in the West, we're going to say Western culture, make assumptions because they don't know any better, or they haven't learned about how things should work. So when Karen was talking about, Karen, do you want to go back to your slide? When Karen was talking about those social cultural competencies, we want to understand that the East and the West is very different. We talk about the West, we're more individualistic. We put the onus on the individual. And the East, for example, China, Korea, Japan, Eastern Indian culture, are very much more what we call collectivist, which means they function for the group. So if you're a person going from the west to the east or the east to the west, you function in a different way and don't even realize, like, for example, working in a group. So with my students,
use an example. Yeah.
you know, for example, in the West, in Canada, in the United States, good evening is completely different from good night. Good evening means, how are you this evening? Good night means goodbye, or I'm going to sleep. If we take another one, maybe, let me see, let's look at one. To go sightseeing versus to go walking. To go sightseeing means like you're looking at some sort of thing on a travel that you haven't seen before. If you're walking, you're doing some exercise. If you're on foot, that means the mode of travel you're going on. And to go window shopping,
you're not going shopping for
you're not
windows
going
for
to
your
bu-
house.
Yeah, you're just looking
Yeah,
at things and in a store window.
Right.
So I want to draw to your attention, as part of your awareness, is, do you come from a Western culture or do you come from an Eastern culture? And are you aware of the important differences of how something might function in the workplace?
Right.
So,
Okay. So we're going to go through the next few slides very quickly, but just point out the key ways that you can integrate culture into your classroom.
right. So I have actually taught education students. So think of this even in the workplace. And I always say, nothing brings people together like food. Everybody loves to eat food from different cultures. And it gets the shy people who may not, you know, say they're learning French or they're learning English or they're learning Arabic. It draws them out in talking about their culture. They feel comfortable talking about their food, right? Also, in terms of family, some cultures, the extended family is very important, right? It's very important to their ways of doing things. Also, if you want to look at clothing, we all recognize that there's traditional clothing that may not be worn every day, but there's also, you know, some slight differences in clothing from what climate you're in.
That's right.
And not just culture. And I know when I travel, the first thing I do is I look at the money. I look, and people don't think of it. And I've had immigrants, and, you know, they've been spending money for a year. And I said, have you ever really looked at money? Because there's a lot of history, there's a lot of culture on money. So that's another one that, you know, people may not think of.
And just like food.
Yeah, of course, music and dance,
Yes.
right? Like nothing gets things going when you have a party with food and music and dance. And I found in my experience, students will talk about it. New immigrants love to teach someone how to dance. Well, doesn't that improve your language by just trying to find the words, whether it be, you know, whatever language you're learning? And then, of course, holidays, right? In my classroom, we try to celebrate a holiday from anybody who's in the class. And of course, people like to talk about their holidays. I was surprised at first, but not now. So a few years ago, how fanatical some Chinese, especially young men, are about basketball. So I was able to connect with them through basketball. We call it soccer here, but football, usually that's pretty global
Around the world.
around the world. So also get people practicing their language through leisure time and hobbies, or connecting with people. And then, of course, traditional stories, some legends, some fables.
Storytelling
yeah,
is key in cultural relations.
Right. And many cultures such as Ojibwe, which is indigenous here, they don't have a written history. Everything is through storytelling. And it really connects you with people. And of course, we know this on the outside, like around, but do we really think about it? In Canada and the United States, religion is a subject we don't talk about really. Like, we don't go around asking people, what religion are you, or what do you practice? However, in other countries, it's very much a part of the culture.
It's an open conversation.
Yeah, an open
right?
conversation. And so we have to remember to be respectful of other people's religion as well. I've learned many things from my Muslim friends and students as well. So also something we want to keep in mind, Karen, do you want to take this one over?
Well, there's a lot of nonverbal communication that occurs, right? And so this happens, and it's comfortable when you're with people who are of the same culture as you are, because you look at things similarly. It's how you grew up. It's the environment that you're in. So when you are connecting with people from other cultures, you have to be very aware of the nonverbal communication. And to do so, watch, learn, be aware of the social clues and clues that are being. Speaking of cues, I've got to share a tiny story. I was fascinated with a photo I found when I was developing an intercultural training session, and this was taken in Hawaii. There were a number of people waiting at a counter. So it could be at a bank or at a social service office or whatever, but there were a lot of chairs in the room. So people take their shoes off, put them in line up at the counter, and only one person is standing at the counter at a time. Everyone else is sitting back in the chairs waiting for that person to leave. And they're not standing there the whole time. They're actually sitting in their queue. I thought that was fascinating.
Yeah, and we say in line in Canada, queue, like we know what queue means, but we
Yeah.
usually say in line.
So again, it's body language. So think of how you're connecting, what you're saying, eye contact. And we have to realize that eye contact in particular can be very offensive in some countries and show disrespect.
Mhm.
So a lot of collectivist cultures, the cultures in, as we refer to as Eastern cultures, value hierarchy very strongly. And so it's very important not to look someone in the eye. So if you are a teacher teaching students for the first time from those cultures, and you were in a Western culture, and you expect the students to look at you, you expect the students to engage in conversation, that's probably not going to happen. Right.
Yeah, and that's a very important point. Like this is nonverbal communication for English. It may not be the same. I know from my Mandarin, my Chinese students, I have been, I try to learn a few words, and it's very intonation based. And so we also, when we're learning a language, that's why learning the culture is so important.
Mm-hmm.
And, all of those cues from people, because Western culture and Eastern culture do have, we're all human beings, but there are some differences that if you knew would come across much more respectfully, but also you can learn the similarities too.
Right.
Right.
And here's one of our last slides. We got just 3 more, I think. And this shows you the array of tools that you can use. Now that we are spending so much time teaching online and still at meetings with companies and organizations, we're still going to be connecting online in many different ways. There's going to be hybrid models where some people will go to the office to work and others will continue to work from home. This is our new normal, if you call it normal. So let's explore the tools. Again, we'll make this available to you. If you would like to, you're welcome to put your email into the chat. And this way,
why don't you put your email
or
and then they can contact you?
Hey, that's an even better idea.
I'll
How about if I do that?
Some of the ones that
Couple of them,
I've used that are very effective. And if you have family across the world, you know how it takes so long for videos to load? Flipgrid is really easy to use. And so I've had students introduce themselves on Flipgrid, and then everybody else can watch the videos. So Flipgrid is a forum where you can make a video. It doesn't have to be a video. It could be anything, but usually videos are more popular. You can select how long you want the video to be, and everybody can make a video and watch each other's. So if you're in an environment where, videos take so long to upload, download, and you don't want them on your hard drive, blah, 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 Flipgrid is excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Padlet is another one where we could call up a Padlet right now and everybody could be writing on the same thing and interacting, kind of like being on a Google Drive, but it's more interactive. And we've already talked about Answer Garden, and I think most people know WhatsApp. WeChat is like the Chinese version of WhatsApp. And some of the others are, I'm sure, things that you are have come across. B2L is mostly for universities and colleges, and Blackboard is the same. But what the main message we're trying to give to you is explore alternatives to just sitting on a meeting, right? If you're a teacher, explore avenues to make it more interesting for your students. Kahoot, I don't know if anybody's heard of Kahoot, but it is fabulous for, it's kind of like trivia, but if you want, even with your colleagues to review something, or you're at a party, you all play on your phones, and you kind of compete against each other. I use it for review for my students. They think they're playing a game, but really I'm reviewing for a test or something.
Okay.
And I don't know why it's so why they like it so much, because it's basically answering questions, but I think it's the fact that it's on the phone and it's a little more interactive. So those are some.
So we thought if you wanted to take a moment, or maybe let's just do this on your own, because we'd like to open this up for 5 minutes of questions. So leaving you with this slide is to encourage you to think of how you might modify what you're doing currently in order to enhance a more student-centered approach, or a more mindful-centered approach to language and culture. So think about that. You could jot down a few things for yourself, and we want to leave you with a quote that means a lot to both of us.
So from Maya Angelou, I've learned that people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel.
That's the connection, right? And that body language that we've been talking about before. Thank you so much for participating. Gracias. Arigato, danke, tak, merci.
And we are going to turn the camera back to us, I guess. You get to look at Karen's, oh,
Yeah.
yes. Well, this is us.
That's us. That's our last slide. It was just some more contact information, but I did put it in the chat. I hope you can read a different email. I've put a quick email into the chat. Please open your mic if you have any question. We've got 4 minutes left.
Does anyone have any questions or comments, something you'd like to know? Share, all my shy people out there.
Yes, this is Jimmy again.
Hi.
From my experience, I think that the key word in your presentation is awareness of the cultural differences, beginning with our own culture. And I only began to understand my own culture when I worked with other people from other countries I worked with, that was for my job. So it's not as deep as a connection. If I really had to get to know people, it was a job relationship, but only with the job relationship, it was sometimes astonishing how different people were working and even not that far. I'm in France. I've worked with Dutch, Danish, Norwegian, and Malaysians, and it was astonishing how different all these people were, and the way they were working with us. And each time it took me a few months to understand how to make this work together, and which leads me to my questions. We have a lot of tools for communicating, getting to know people, getting to know languages, but are you aware of some resources to get to know better the other cultures? You know, we have language courses, but do we have somewhere culture courses, you know, who might allow people to get to know better the culture of in different countries, and that would be helpful to be more efficient.
Jimmy? Are you looking for
Sorry?
free resources, like things that you can look at on your own? Is that
Or both.
okay? The University of British Columbia, which is in Canada, offers some free courses on intercultural competency, diversity, inclusion, equity. They have some free courses. They're absolutely free. I can't think right off the bat some other there's one in the United States and it's not coming to me. But I know that one for sure. Karen probably has a ton of resources, maybe a resource sheet. If you email her, I'm sure she has a resource sheet she can send you.
It's probably the quickest way.
It's probably
to do
the
it.
easiest way, Jimmy, is if you
Yes.
just email. I'm going to say Karen because our resources are the same. So,
Okay, were you able to get my email address from the chat, Jimmy?
I think so. I made a screenshot.
Okay, good idea. That's the quickest, easiest. I always do screenshots.
Yeah.
I just thank you for your question. And we have just 1 minute left. If Andrew or Yvonne have a query, a question, we'd love to hear from you.
No, thank you. I appreciate the session. You guys are great. It feels like I'm watching a professional video or something. And thank you so much for thinking outside of the box, turning the camera around. That is a great save, I must say. Yeah, I work in consumer research, so I work in an international company, actually one of the world's largest. Well, I worked in Kantar, then I worked in Ipsos. They're both fairly big, and I work with a lot of international colleagues, and the things that you said is absolutely spot on, and especially with the iceberg analogy, it's food for thought, really. Yeah, thank you.
True.
You're very welcome. Our pleasure.
Continue to spread the word, right? To
yeah.
encourage your colleagues.
You know, and the first thing Karen and I say is we are, often when you're studying this, you're asked to rate yourselves, and there's we still have much to learn. We still have a lot to
and
learn.
we've been doing this a long time.
Yeah, but the thing is, I guess our message is to open your mind, open your heart, and really look. Lots of times the joke is, people think Canadians are the same as Americans. And if you say that to a Canadian, they're going to freak out a little bit because we have some very, we are different in a lot of ways. And so we kind of use that as an example for us because, and also I didn't mention, you want to learn a language, you need to live it. Right? You need to live the language.
And simply going and traveling somewhere does not develop intercultural skills. You have to be intentional about your learning and try to make meaning of how and why people do things the way they do.
And sometimes just listen, right? Just listen to what they have to say.
Thanks again, because they're going to kick us off here right now.
Yes, there's probably another one starting, but please email Karen. And if you are looking for anything specific, so Jimmy, send us an email and we can send you a list of things other than the University of British Columbia.
And Yvonne and Andrew, if you'd like to do the same, please do. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.